you're so happy about it. I actually think the Red Sox might not suck this year.
This is the Baseball Hour with Tony Mazz.
Me.
Presented by Bigelow Tea, Jackson Lumber, Blue Moonlight, Wellesley Testosterone, FindMassMoney.com, Gem Plumbing, and by Golf. On Boston's home for sports, 98.5, the Sports Hub.
We flash back to earlier this season. Something Alex Cora said about a streak just like this.
The way I see it, and you guys know how I feel about 10-game win streaks. We haven't done that in a while here. We're still playing where we at, an average team, right? And hopefully when we get our streak, we can get to 8 games over 500 and then take off.
And a line right base hit center field. Romy scores. Marcelo trying to score. The throw home. He's in. Runner goes. Swing and a miss. That does it. Red Sox win it. 4-3 the final as they ripped off 7 straight wins. Swing and a drive. Oh! He killed it. And it's out of here. It's gone. St. Don does it. That is the sound of 8 straight at Fenway. Wow. This kid.
Tonight was real, and we appreciate that. It was on us to make this place uncomfortable, and tonight was uncomfortable. You could feel it, and we appreciate that.
Hershey can still get out of it with a double play, but the bunt's going to be dropped down. Here comes the run, throw to the plate, the tag, out and home. Got him. Toro came in and made a terrific play, and Narvaez with the tag. We're waiting to see if they'll challenge, and they are going to challenge.
After review, the call on the field stands.
Oh, now you can celebrate it. That's an amazing play from Abraham Toro.
Tremendous. Line into right, Abreu there. Ball game. Red Sox win it 9 in a row. 1-0 today, knocking off Tampa Bay. Exactly 100 pitches. For the all-star left-hander, he goes all the way. And Pepio with a 3-2. Swinging a high fly ball into left field, driving back Mangum. He's turning around. That is up there. That is gone. It's gone. It's a home run. He hit another one out. The Red Sox lead it 4-1. Say Don Rafaela. Chapman, 2-2 to Walls. Swing and a miss. This magical run hits 10 in a row.
We have a good baseball team. It's a different offense, a good one, and we're going to continue.
Clock, because I have not had a real opportunity to speak to many of you, the baseball followers of the city of Boston, since the end of last week, before the Red Sox swept the Tampa Bay Rays, before they went into the All-Star break, before they reached 10 straight, before they, dare I say, solidified their place as contenders in the American League. 617-779-0985 is your number tonight on the Baseball Hour. Jared Carrabis joins us, albeit remotely, but it doesn't matter as long as you can hear those buttery tones of Jared Carrabis. It really doesn't matter where he is, it's as long as you can hear him. Jared Carrabis, presented by Blue Moonlight, a light and refreshing citrus wheat beer with only 95 calories, brewed with real tangerine peel for a subtle sweetness and smooth finish, just like Jared. Enjoy Blue Moonlight today. So, again, Jared was out at the All-Star game, flew back. So, given his travel duress, I don't even know if I can put those words together, but you get the idea. He is joining us remotely. And so, Jared, is there anybody left who thinks that the Red Sox should not add at the deadline? Do those people even exist?
Where's McCarthy on this? That's what I want to know. I feel like, has he bought in yet? I feel like if he's bought in, then I don't know who else could be possible. Maybe
Jared
Dan Shaughnessy?
McCarthy has bought in. He is in.
Okay, so then I guess we just need to confirm with Dan Shaughnessy if this team is for real. I think that's the only other living person on earth that might be doubtful of this.
Okay, so you know what, Jared, again, to me, and I'll tell you what, I'll just give you a couple of numbers here real quick that I think are worth repeating. It was something I looked up the other day, and I just drew the line at 1970 because it was an easy place to draw the line, let's call it the last 50, 55 years. Since 1970, the Red Sox have now had 13 winning streaks of 10 or more games. Okay, 13 times. This was the 13th. Of the previous 12 occasions, they have made the playoffs 9 times. So the reason I put emphasis on this is because usually, if you look at history, usually, to win 10 in a row, you have to be a pretty good team. It's not just a streak that some club that finishes 77 and 85 is going to put together during the course of the year, because there are flaws that lead you to that record that prevent you from winning 10 in a row. So to win 10 in a row, you have to do a lot of things right. First and foremost, you have to pitch well. You have to be in every game. You have to hit, and you have to play a relatively good defense. You've got to do all the little things. You have to be prepared, and you need some luck. And I would say the Red Sox have done all of those things now during this winning streak. They've had some luck too, and that's okay. It's part of the deal. As of right now, they are a playoff team, and yet, as has been noted in many places here, Jared, in the last, let's call it, few days, the Red Sox, after the All-Star break, and particularly after the trade deadline or around the trade deadline, under Alex Cora, in the last, let's call it 4 or 5 years. He wasn't here in 2020, as we all know. But post-All-Star break and post-deadline have been kind of a disaster. And they have failed to put together 2 good halves in the same season. And even this one wasn't a great half as much as it was, catching fire at the end and starting to reach the potential that we all thought they had. But I think that this team is different. I truly believe that. And when I say different, I mean different from the other Cora teams of the last few years. But you tell me, if they don't add a significant piece at the deadline, are we at all at risk of another implosion?
You're always at risk. But I think for this team in particular, when you say this team's different, I thought you were going to ask me, why are they different? The answer to that question, they have an ace. That's something that they haven't had in these years where they've fallen apart in the second half. And they also haven't had the leader that Alex Bregman is. Like, when you go through these hard stretches in the second half of the season, and you're not just a relatively young, but one of the worst, or not worst, but one of the youngest teams in Major League Baseball, you're going to go through these stretches where you're kind of looking around the room being like, are we okay? And there's no one there to tell you, like, hey, no, everyone's banged up. We got to fight through this. And here's how we battle. And here's how we stick together. They haven't had that guy. So, and it goes beyond just those 2 guys. But I think in terms of pointing out what's different this time around, just those 2 individuals in particular, that's a huge difference compared to years past. And you talk about the winning streaks. How about being able to stop losing streaks? Like, they've had, I think they've had a pair of 6 or 5 game losing streaks this year, but it's like every time Garrett Crochet comes up, even if you have, I think the guys like Lucas Giolito, Brian Bayo, even a guy like Richard Fitz, like, you've had these guys step up and be good number 2 type starters in support of a Garrett Crochet, but you just know if they falter, Crochet, it's not an automatic, because their record with him it's not what you would think. It's not like they're 15 games over 500, but he gives you ace performances every time out. If you're losing that game, it's because it's not because of him. So that's been the big difference, Tony.
Jared, what do you think Cora's state of mind is right now? Because he is a guy that has been at the center of some of the controversy over the last few years, and yet right now it feels to me like he is as geeked up about this team as anybody.
He is. No, I talked to him over the break. This is someone that he believed in this group even when they were struggling. I think that in past years, when the Red Sox have displayed, poor performances, bad records, like, privately, like, he'll indicate, like, yeah, I don't know what this future holds. But even when the Red Sox have had their lows this year, he kind of never wavered in terms of how he felt about this group. And he felt and he feels very highly about this group. That part of, I guess, his tone has never wavered, even through the times where this team hasn't performed well. So that gets me excited about it. And stating the obvious here, he's privy to the conversations that go on inside the front office of what the plan is or what they hope to do. So if he's kind of thinking along those lines of, I'm excited for the future, not just years in advance, but this year in particular, yeah, I mean, it kind of gets you thinking, like, what do they have up their sleeve?
Okay, so here's what we're going to do tonight on the Baseball Hour. That plan for what the Red Sox are going to do, we want to get into that in more depth with Jared. We also want to hear from you in terms of whether you're buying in, whether you believe. So, because I know a lot of people, Jared, still have some skepticism about the team given their performance in the past few years, right after the All-Star break or right coming out of the All-Star break, and certainly right around the deadline. And I think Cora has been part of the problem in some of those years. But I want to get more into Alex Cora as well. And let me just give you this quick statistic as we go to break. Because Jared mentioned the record with Garrett Crochet on the mound and how it isn't necessarily eye-popping, but it is the difference in the Red Sox between this year and some of these other years. Crochet has now made 20 starts. The Red Sox are 13-7 in those games. There was a stretch earlier in the year where they were, sub 500 in a good chunk of those games. And the fact of the matter is that in the last 8 starts with Garrett Crochet on the mound, the Red Sox are 7-1. Their only loss was an extra inning loss at the Angels, a game that they lost 3-2. So even then, the one loss was extremely close. Here's what I'm getting at. The Red Sox are 8 games over 500. 6 of those have come with Garrett Crochet on the mound. So the reason they are where they are, and I think it was Peter Abraham who wrote something in the Globe, your buddy Pete Abe, Jared.
Yeah, I saw him today.
Yeah, there was Pete Abe wrote something in the Globe about who the team MVP at this point is, and he said it's Crochet, and I agree with him. Bregman would have been it, but he missed a good chunk of time. Crochet has been the most consistent and reliable performer on the team from beginning to end, at least as the first half is concerned. So all that, trading deadline, where the Red Sox are, do you believe, do you not believe? And I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I think we have, there is a very real chance here that we have entered now the beginning of the next era in Red Sox history. And that is the Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, Ceddanne Rafaela, Garrett Crochet, Brian Bayo era. The Mookie Betts, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts era is now gone. It's over and the new era has begun. And we'll see whether these are new and different Red Sox or whether they're the same old ones. Again, Carrabis is here. We'll take your calls. Don't go anywhere. That's tonight on the Baseball Hour.
the question becomes, okay, what are they going to do? They need a starting pitcher. A couple of weeks ago, I might have said they needed a number 2 right behind Crochet. Now I don't know that that's the case. They've got Crochet, of course, being Crochet, ace of the staff, all-star, brilliant performer. But in recent weeks, Lucas Giolito has come on and Brian Bayo has come on. So right now, I don't know that they need the number 2. It's going to be so hard to get anyway. They could just use a starting pitcher who would help them, as well as a first baseman and, of course, the requisite bullpen help. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they play this, because they are a team that, frankly, might be in the World Series if they make the right moves here. They have a ton of talent. They've got a really intriguing, exciting club, and they've come on a good deal in recent weeks.
So obviously Kenny Rosenthal of The Athletic and of Fox Sports talking about the Red Sox, what their needs are at the deadline. Again, Jared Carrabis joining the program tonight. We got a number of you on the line here already, so we'll get to your calls in just a second. But I do want to ask Jared. Kenny says there, Jared, that they may not need a number 2 starter now with the way that Giolito and Bayo have performed of late. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree, but that's not. I'm not trying to like put down Giolito or Bayo. They've been great. I think it's more so do you trust it to continue? And I think it's so. This is going to sound like a stupid answer because in both cases I do trust it to continue. I do. Maybe not to the level where like Giolito has a sub-1, but I think what Bayo is doing is sustainable. I think at the very least, like is Giolito going to have a sub-1 the rest of the way? No. But like, has he figured something out to where the rest of the way he could be in the 3s? Yeah, I actually do believe that. But that's not to say that you should bank on it and just say, no, I'm good at the trade deadline and not do something to improve. Because if you're 4 starters deep, I mean, now you're a threat. Especially, that's why when people look at this team this year and it's like, well, they're okay, they're good, they're not great. Look at it's all contextual. Look at the rest of the league. The rest of the league is like, okay, yeah, but not great. This would be the year where maybe if you make the right move or a series of moves at the deadline, that you can just fall ass backwards into a championship that you didn't see coming. Like this would be the year to do that.
Jared, who would your number 1 choice be on the trade market?
Oh, Joe Ryan, no question. Okay. I mean, it's not a matter of who the guy is. It's a matter of will the Twins do it? And everyone has a price. I think in the particular case of Joe Ryan, you're going to have to get creative. And whether that's taking on a bad contract to help out the Twins, whether that's involving a third team so that there's prospects and big league guys going all over the place. Like if you don't have the names in particular, let's say there's a pitching prospect that maybe you don't want to part ways with. Maybe there's another team that can include that pitching prospect to satisfy the Twins, and then you can satisfy this other team. There's ways that you can do it. It's just the likelihood of it is what's in question.
Okay, so let me ask you one more question, and then we'll get to the calls. And that is, if not Joe Ryan, because as soon as Jimmy Stewart raised Joe Ryan's name to me, I said, well, that's the guy. There's no question that's the guy, and I love everything about Joe Ryan. And I don't know if he is, I don't know that I'd call him the best pitcher in the league, but what I do love about him is that he's rock solid. That's how I look at him. Rock solid, dependable. You know what you're going to get. He's a good pitcher. He's a solid B+ kind of pitcher, maybe even a little better than that. But I think very highly of Joe Ryan's game and his ability. If not him, who's the next guy on the list?
So I think if you're still aiming high, I think the next thing you do after that is try to go super pen and raid somebody's bullpen for power back end arms. I don't know that there's someone on the same level as a Joe Ryan where it's like, oh, if not Joe Ryan, then there's this guy. Like Zach Gallen has not had a very good year. He's going to be a free agent. Dylan Cease, same thing.
What about Evaldi?
Evaldi would be very nice. That would be something where I think up until the 10-game winning streak, though, the Rangers probably looked at themselves the same way that the Red Sox did. Like they're, a hot streak away from saying, we're on the same level as the Red Sox. What would you trade our guy for? But yeah, that's absolutely a name that I would look at. Yes.
Okay, because those would be the top 2 on my list. Let me give you one more, just out of curiosity, because I know he's coming back from injury. His name's been bandied about all year, and the guy kind of scares me. But that's Sandy Alcantara.
So, I mean, he's been dreadful up until probably the start of June or July. I didn't want to say it was June. Like he's strung together some good outings, but he was statistically the worst pitcher in the league, like April, May, and then probably into June. I can't remember, but he had like 5 good starts. I guess if you're looking at Sandy, you have to answer the question, do I believe in Andrew Bailey? That's really it, because yes, he's figured some things out, but what happens if he reverts? Do you have the tools in the shed to go back and fix it and make him? I mean, I don't think he's going to be 200 innings Cy Young Sandy ever again, but he's proven that it's still in there. They've unlocked something, but here's where I have some, I guess, here's where I hesitate with Sandy is just because he figured it out for a month and change. Does that mean the asking price is going to be astronomical because they're looking at, well, he's fixed, so we're gonna treat it like the whole season's been like this, or is the price going to be similar to he's been good for a month? That's kind of the question that I want to have answered.
Jared, what's the money on him, and how long is he signed, or how long is he under control?
I want to say it's like a couple more. They signed him to a very team-friendly deal, but it's obviously rich for the Marlins blood. I can look it up for you.
Okay. I mean, it's not urgent. I'm just curious because, again, if you take on the money, you can always get more. Exactly.
It's 5 years. He signed a 5-year, $56 million contract with a 27 option. So this year he's making 17. Next year he makes 17. And then in 27, he has a $21 million club option.
Okay. So I don't think they're in a position to ask for too much, especially if you're going to eat some of that money. Jim's in South Carolina. Jim, what do you got?
Hey there. First off, I'll just let you know I'm 67 years old, from Rhode Island originally, and I've lived through a lot of this aggravation in my life in the past. I think just the team that we're watching right now is learning how to win versus they knew how to lose. These young guys, that's the biggest thing I'm seeing as I watch every game. But the next thing will be the mental lift of getting somebody. I remember when we got Jake Peavy, and it was like, yeah, this isn't the greatest, but the mental lift in the clubhouse was front office and the management's committed to winning. And I think that the piece and going to get the piece, if you may not get the ace, but I think even Hicks in the bullpen is shortening games up. So you've got so many positive things happening, but I think now it's front office time to commit to the people that are in that clubhouse. I'll let you guys chat, and I appreciate the time.
Okay, so Jim, look, Jared, I think this is an interesting point, that if ownership and management is going to trade away Rafael Devers because they were worried about how he was impacting the culture in the clubhouse, and now they have a chance to make a move at the deadline and further embolden this team. And again, I would say send a good cultural message. In other words, not only are we interested in getting rid of a guy who we think was part of the problem, but we are going to bring in guys who are part of the solution. Isn't it incumbent upon them to go out now and get help?
Yes, no doubt. And this is where Craig Breslow shows, yes, I know that I'm a Yale nerd baseball guy, but I'm also a former player too. And I know what adding at the trade deadline can do for a clubhouse of a team that needs, and it's not like the Red Sox need a boost. It's not that they need a boost. They need the vote of confidence. It's that, hey, we just played 10 games and won all 10 of them. And now here comes some reinforcements. And it's the representation of, you are saying you believe in what you're seeing. And to your point earlier, Tony, about the past few years and how they played coming out the gate, let's not stray from what we're looking at here. Out the gate, you are playing 3 series against the 3 first place teams in the National League. Like, you are playing the first place Cubs, the first place Phillies, and then you come home to play the first place Dodgers. So, I mean, I'm not saying they need to pounce on it right now, but I think, when everyone looks at the great Red Sox trade deadlines, and I think we can look back to the 2018 trade deadline, Tony, that those were some hits. You brought in Steve Pearce, who was your World Series MVP, and the aforementioned Nate Eovaldi, who became a postseason legend for you. Those deals were made well in advance of the actual deadline. Like, what teams don't understand, or what fans maybe don't understand, you don't have to wait until the 31st to start popping off trades. If you see that you have a need, and I'm not saying the Red Sox aren't making phone calls, they're certainly making phone calls and receiving them as well. But it would be nice if for this stretch they were like, why not bring in the reinforcements right now? Why not make something happen right now? Because we can do that. That's within the rules.
Sooner the better, Jared. Again, you play real competition. You got to go 5-4, 6-3 against those teams,
and set the market, Tony. How important is that? How many times have we seen the trade deadline go by, and that first trade is like, oh my god, like wow, that's what the cost is for this stuff. So if you're the team that is aggressive early, you address the need and you set the market. Now you can make it. You've already got your guy, and you can make it more difficult for your competitors that are trying to upgrade at the deadline as well.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it is. Look, this is where we are. And again, people think I root against the Red Sox. Who wouldn't want to talk about a team like this versus a team that sucks and is just treading water on its way to 81-81? Who wouldn't want to do that? So this to me is way more interesting. I've told the story a million times about Terry Francona once saying to me, is it better for you when we lose? And I said, no. No, because when you lose, there's one story. How do you fix it? Who do we blame and how do you fix it? When you win, there are a million stories. Everything matters. Everything. Like defending a squeeze play and throwing out a guy at the plate, which is what Abraham Toro did. Or stealing a base and ultimately producing a run that gets you into the World Series. Or things like that. They all matter. Every little play matters. When you lose, all we talk about is how you suck and the problems are much bigger. And then we say, how do you fix it? That's it. So I don't want them to suck. This is what I like. It makes them way more interesting, and it gives us plenty to talk about. Kevin Majori's got your headlines. When we come back, Jared just said something in this segment that I want to follow up on that relates to the trading deadline, because I wonder, as always, if Jared has some inside information. If he doesn't, he can lighten us, because frankly, I think he knows the league better than I do. We'll do that when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
Tony Mazz and a panel of experts.
Oh, I like this.
It's the Baseball Hour with Tony Mazz on the Sports Hub.
Again, Jared Carrabis with us, as he is every Wednesday, give or take, on the Baseball Hour. Have some thoughts on the All-Star game and some of the things that they implemented in that game last night. I also have a thought from the game that occurred to me. I tweeted it out as well about a player in baseball history. It's just off the top of my head. I feel very strongly about it. So we'll get to that, but I do want to take a couple of calls first, and then we'll get to something Jared said last segment that is worthy of further investigating. Jed's in Utah with a question on the Red Sox. Go ahead, Jed.
Hey, yeah, mainly a question for Jared and Scoop Shop. I'm wondering if he's hearing if Craig is looking around in the legit ace or number 2 guys like Joe Ryan, Mackenzie Gore, or is it going to be another trade deadline where we're getting like a sub 700 Carlos Santana and a few decent relievers? I just want to hear if we're playing around with the big guys this year and if he thinks we'll actually end up with one.
Jed, thank you. So, Jared, how high are they aiming?
Yeah, I think the smoke around the Joe Ryan stuff is legit. So, I don't think that they're going to add an ace or like a Mackenzie Gore. You're talking about a big package. And I think the other thing that we heard the other day was that the Twins were kind of saying, hey, if you want Joe Ryan, that the package was going to be similar to what the Red Sox gave up for Garrett Crochet. And all due respect to Joe Ryan, but we're talking about different tiers of starting pitchers. So at least they're aiming high, it sounds like. But to speculate on where they ultimately land, who's to say? He brought up Carlos Santana. So I think we talked about this last week, Tony. I don't want a first baseman at this deadline. I'm more than happy with the Romy Toro platoon at first base. I know that platoons aren't sexy, but they're doing their job and they're doing it well. And also, like the Red Sox, when they last won a World Series, had a platoon at first base. So I don't really like if you're going to be giving up anything, like if you have trade chips, save them for areas where you have a position or a need that's underperforming or there's just gaps here. Like first base to me, I don't feel that's an area of need. Do you?
No, it's they have bigger needs is how I would put it. And look, overall, I would say positionally they're in pretty good shape. So now it's not perfect, and it's contingent upon some of these young guys continuing to hit. Everybody talks about the departure of Devers, and listen, that's fine, Jared. Taking Devers out of the mix has clearly been part of this, and it's a huge line of demarcation in this season. But part of the reason it's worked is because Roman Anthony has hit like Rafael Devers, basically, since that trade. Now, maybe a little after that is when it really kicked in, but he has replaced that OPS, that production, if that's how you want to call it. You said something else. I want to get back to this because you said it last segment with regard to what their options are. We've been focused on a number 2 starter. You raised the bullpen as an option if they don't get a frontline starter. I want to play that again because I want to ask you about it. I think very highly of Joe Ryan's game and his ability. If not him, who's the next guy on the list?
So I think if you're still aiming high, I think the next thing you do after that is try to go super pen and raid somebody's bullpen for power back end arms. I don't know that there's someone on the same level as a Joe Ryan where it's like, oh, if not Joe Ryan, then there's this guy.
Okay, so super pen, super bullpen, who are we talking about, Jared? Anybody in particular?
Yeah, so there's a few different relievers that I think are going to be available. Maybe I have Eric Gagne PTSD, Tony, from 2007 where the Red Sox traded for Eric Gagne with the Texas Rangers. And it's like, all right, this dude's a closer. We have Okajima. We have Papelbon. Let's add another closer. And then we'll just make these games 6 innings. Like, that's what we'll do. So, Kyle Finnegan of the Nats is a closer. He's not a big strikeout guy. Like, I want strikeout guys. So you get into the playoffs and you want to bring in relievers who can punch guys out. So David Bednar of the Pirates is a guy that I think could possibly be on the move. He has 45 strikeouts in 32 innings. It's a 2.53 ERA. Ryan Helsley, he came up a little bit when we were talking about before, the Bregman backup plan was Nolan Arenado.
He's St. Louis, right?
Correct. Yep. 33 innings, 36 strikeouts, 3.27 ERA. But the team that I'm looking at specifically, because they have been linked to the Red Sox. I started at 50-50 Duran getting traded. I think it's becoming less and less likely now that they're winning so much and he's kind of in the mix of all this. But the San Diego Padres have been linked to the Red Sox in trade talks because all the rumors are they'll do anything for Jarren Duran. So the San Diego Padres have a really good closer in Robert Suarez, but Jason Adam just made the All-Star team. They have a litany of relief pitchers who are very good. They're not closers. It's kind of what you're looking for. Like Jason Adam has punched out 52 batters in 47 2/3. Estrada, 60 strikeouts in 43 innings. So they've got guys where it's like, all right, yeah, maybe, we don't necessarily need a closer. Chapman has been really good this year, arguably the best relief pitcher in the league. But if the Padres are going to say, hey, we'll do anything, it's like, all right, well, let's talk anything then.
Yeah, and Jason Adam has been pretty consistent in his career, right? I mean, that's a guy.
Yeah.
So that's a guy that appeals to me too. Nate's in a car. Nate, what do you got?
Yeah, Tony, I was thinking. We've had this big winning streak of 10 games now. Now, with getting rid of Rafi Devers, do you think that the clubhouse culture, you touched a little bit on it earlier, had a lot to do with him? And once they got rid of him, it kind of cleared the air because it seems like this team's having a lot of fun. And we know in years past when they have a lot of fun and things connect, they do big things. So I just want to know how much of that clubhouse culture was really affecting all the younger guys and the veteran players.
Okay, so Jared, can you answer that question? How much should we put on the departure of Devers?
It made a difference, but I think if you were to circle Devers not being here as the reason why this team took off, I think you're undermining a lot of not even under the hood things, but just, the point that you made earlier, you can't have these 10-game winning streaks unless you're playing good defense and the pitching comes together. I think that guys like Bayo, guys like Giolito, other guys that have come in and the Red Sox bullpen, they're in the bullpen. They have nothing to do with Devers. They're not in the dugout. They're, barely around a guy like Devers. They didn't allow a run in that 4-game sweep against the Tampa Bay Rays. And that was a series where Hunter Dobbins went down, 5 outs into the game? Right. Did he make it out of the first? He didn't make it out of the second. And so, yeah, sure, does it help to have a culture that promotes everyone pulling on the rope together and everyone that's here wants to be here? Sure, that helps. But I think it's just it's very clickbaity to say, they traded Devers and then they took off. It's like, well, what did Devers have to do with the bullpen just coming together and stepping up their game? Absolutely nothing. There's no correlation. So it's, yes, does having a good culture help? Sure. But is that the reason why the Red Sox are 8 games above 500 on a 10-game winning streak? I wouldn't put it at the top of the list. No.
Okay. So again, it's part of it. It's not a direct, well, I don't want to say it's not a direct cause and effect. But it's an element. There's no question it's an element. So let me ask you this, because, again, this is the part that I always push back on. In the clubhouse, was Devers a problem, or was it more just the whole Devers thing was hanging over the team?
Yeah, the latter. I think it was the latter. You ask guys, and even privately, they'll be like, yeah, I had no problem with Rafi. I'm on good terms with Rafi. I think the problem was between Rafi and ownership, Rafi and the front office. I don't think it was a thing with him and rubbing his teammates the wrong way. And we just talked to Chris Sale 2 days ago, and he described Rafi as a great teammate. So, I mean, if you're hearing it from the horse's mouth that, good teammate, whatever, I think it's kind of isolated to him versus the front office, ownership, what have you. And then I think it's just it makes everyone else in the room uncomfortable because it's like, oh, well, that's the guy. So if the guy is unhappy, kind of makes everything a little bit awkward.
Drew's in Pennsylvania with a good question. Go ahead, Drew.
Jared, before you had said that there are maybe a pitching prospect that they're not willing to give up for somebody like Joe Ryan. Mm-hmm. Let me respond. There isn't a pitching prospect in our organization that I wouldn't give up for Joe Ryan. And here's the reason why. I'm actually older than Tony.
Drew, so I'm going to stop you there. But, Jared, you tell me, is Peyton Tolley untouchable?
I don't know that untouchable is the word, but I think it would take quite a bit to get. So I'm not saying that I disagree with Drew. I'm not saying that there's a guy in the Red Sox system right now that hasn't, at least gone called up to the big leagues yet that I wouldn't consider moving. Like, I don't think that they have an untouchable prospect right now. But I mean, if they're that high on him, I mean, I'm only watching clips of Tolley. I'm a fan. I think he's great. I think he is going to be a great big league pitcher. There's even some buzz that we might see him this year. That he could leapfrog from Double-A, and we could see him at the end of the year this year. That would be cool. Maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe that's why he wouldn't be included in a deal if they have plans for him to be at the big league level this year. But I agree with Drew. I don't know that there is a guy that for the right deal that I wouldn't at least consider it.
Would you move Tolley for Ryan?
I don't think it would be a straight up deal. I'd have to see the whole package. I think it's definitely something where Joe Ryan's the name. Like, that's the name that I'm personally circling. I know that you're joining me in that regard. I don't think it's going to be obviously a 1-for-1. I'd be like, what else is in there? And I think the thing is, Tony, there are guys in this system right now that have a lot of value, just not to the Red Sox. I think it's the perfect time for the Red Sox to make a prospect-heavy baseball trade because they have a lot of talent in their system. It's just where does it fit? They're trying to get rid of guys because they have too many players at the big league level. Now you're talking about trying to make room for these other guys that haven't even made their debuts yet. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting deadline in that sense because they do have the talent. It's not like they're a barren wasteland that they're trying to make a deal from.
Okay, I'm just going to ask our producer, Jimmy Stewart, if we could we'll go to 55 here, Jimmy. Is that all right? And we'll just wrap up the show with some calls.
I'd go to 11 with Jared if we could.
So I would go to 11 with Jared, too.
Can't afford him, though.
But, again, it's a whole different thing. He costs
salary cap, tax.
He does. He costs a lot of money, and he's got
the boatload.
What do they call the when you buy the tickets for the more expensive games? What do they call that? Like a tiered ticket?
Oh, VIP passes?
No. If you want to go to a Yankee game, you got to pay more than if you go to like some suckbag game against the Yankees.
A premium pack.
Okay, exactly. Jared, the longer he stays, the more you pay.
I'm in.
That's right.
So that's what his rate goes up by the hour. So
that's right.
Quickly, David Weston on ownership. Go ahead, Dave.
I'll pay it.
Yeah, you got to go to 2 hours on Wednesdays. So ownership group got exactly what they needed with that 10-game winning streak, 4 of which were against major league teams. So they go from 2 under, right, to 8 over before they go into this gauntlet, and now everybody's buying tickets, right? And that's exactly what they want. The problem is between now and August 15th, when this gauntlet ends with San Diego, they've got a trading deadline in the middle, and they could go either way over the next 2 weeks, and they got to figure it out. So, I just think that's going to be a problem for them.
Yeah, so look, the next 2 weeks are huge. I mean, they're huge. And I'll start with just the first 9, those 3 series against, and that's the 3 division winners. Is that what you said, Jared? It's the Cubs, it's the Phillies, and who am I leaving out?
The Dodgers.
Cubs, Phillies, and Dodgers. So those 3 teams, you can go, if you go 5-4 in there, that's a win. You take that and you run with it. Daniel in Boxford with a question for Jared. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, Jared. Question for you. First base, do you think a guy like Nathaniel Lowe would be something worth trading for, another year of control, or roll with what we got?
Jared?
I'm rolling with what we got, man. I'm rolling with what we got. I think, the platoon of these guys. And so the other thing, too, Tony, I know that both of them have hit. But that complete game shutout that happened on Saturday, Garrett Crochet, does not happen if not for a heads-up, very good defensive play by Abraham Toro at first base.
It was a great play. It was a great play.
Great play. And even Garrett Crochet was like, I thought he was going to take the out at first there, and he instead came home. You get the out at home plate. The Red Sox win a 1-0 ball game on the back of a Garrett Crochet complete game shutout, 100 pitches, 3 hits. So to me, it's like, if it's not broken, why would you fix it? And if there are identifiable areas of need, then go after those. I'm not saying don't take the call. I'm not saying, if the Braves want to give you Matt Olson and it's a deal that makes sense to the Red Sox, sure, come on down, Matty O. Would love to have you. But for Carlos Santana or Nathaniel Lowe, I'm not breaking up the band at first base with Toro and Romy. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, me neither. Before we let you go, can you give me 30 seconds on something that struck me during the All-Star game last night, and I have felt this way a long, long time. And I'm talking to the listeners as well as Jared. But, Jared, if I were to say to you, name one of the more underrated or unappreciated superstars in baseball history, is there anyone in particular that jumps to mind? And I'm throwing this at you like literally out of nowhere, so just tell me that, off the top of your head, you'd have to think about it if you have to think about it.
In baseball history?
Yes, baseball history.
Eric Davis is the first thing that came to mind.
Okay, so Eric Davis was a good player. I liked Eric Davis too. And you know who I'll tell you who I think is grossly underappreciated, and they did a little feature on him last night during the game? Hank Aaron.
He's one of the greatest of all time, Tony. Okay, what do you mean?
But he's never talked about in the same breath as Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, all the Ken Griffey, all the great center fielders, because he didn't play center field. Hank Aaron was a corner outfielder, and I will tell you that Hank Aaron should be in the discussion as the greatest player in the history of the game. I'm not telling you he is, because I think some of those other guys played in the middle of the diamond. But he should be in the discussion. He was a tremendous hitter and run producer. He was incredibly consistent. He could run early in his career. I think he played shortstop in the minor leagues, but he could run. He could hit for average. He could hit for production. He was the home run king, as we know, at one point in time, and never, I repeat, never hit as many as 50 home runs in a season. He was Mr. Consistency, and he was understated, and he was dignified, and he was one of the great, great players in the history of the game that not enough people include in that conversation.
Well said, Tony. Hey, Jimmy, give me the most underrated entertainer of all time.
Jared Carrabis.
Walt Disney, in my opinion.
Yeah, so when you say entertainer, so that's a good one, Jared.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I
Yeah.
mean, again, because you say entertainer, I think Michael Jackson. I don't think I don't think Walt Disney, but I get your point.
Yeah. He's up there.
P.T. Barnum would be another one.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Jared,
Michael Jackson also, yeah.
Jared, get some rest.
Another name redacted.
I'm going to go to bed.
Man.
Yeah, I know. Jared's been traveling, so we appreciate you joining the program. I know the All-Star Game's kind of a pain in the ass, Jared. You don't need to say that publicly, but
it's very hot.
I know. Well, I'm sure it was. And we'll get to the rules some other time. But I appreciate you joining as always.
I'll see you next week. I'm going to go to Kowloon and then take a nap.
Well done, Jared. Who is it? Kevin Majori with the headlines, Jimmy? Majori's got your headlines. We'll catch you tomorrow on the Baseball Hour. No games until Friday, which you know, but we got plenty to talk about with the Red Sox who are back in it. We'll catch you next time.